Good morning, my artsy friends. Happy Monday morning. My name is Ken Johnson, your thrifty apprentice. And as always, I am very happy that you took time out of your busy schedule to drop in on today's live and hang out for a little while. Now, in this particular live, we are going to be wrapping up a three-part mini series where we have been looking at um, tips and tricks and techniques on building your own custom watercolor or gouache palette. Now, this actually is almost a four-part series. Original video where we sort of start touching on some of this was actually done inside the creation station. I can't remember if it was a watercolor Sunday fun day video or if it was a creation station video, but we start touching on it there. Then here on YouTube, we started a three-part series where we've been looking at different color families, pigment numbers, characteristics of paints in order to build our own palette, which I did with you guys in the second video where I took two paints ranging from a split primary to earth tones to specialty colors, which in my case were granulating, to my favorite colors in order to build a palette, which I panned up inside a vintage tin, gave time to dry down, and then we swatched those things out together on camera. If you missed those first two videos, the first one was a live, the second one was a pre recorded video, but they're both inside the Create Your Own Watercolor Gouache Palette playlist. And you will find the link for that playlist in the video description. That way, you'll get all three videos at one time, just in case you want to go back and check out anything that you may have missed. Um, so yes, that's definitely in the video description for you all to check out. So as you guys know, this is completing a three-part series of creating your own watercolor and gouache palette. And I thought that one of the things that I would do before we jump into painting, which is what today's video is about, really just painting with the last curated palette we put together, I would just take a look at the palettes that I have created from personal curation and just kind of show you what I've done. Um, oh, did I knock those over? Turn those over? Okay. I was getting together a little giveaway for today because I know it's been a minute since I've done a live giveaway. Okay, other than outside of Palm Street. So let's just take a look real quick here. Um, the very first palette I ever curated was a student grade palette. It's made up of Winsor and Newton Cotman and Grumbacher Academy tubes. It's an artist palette. I This was years ago. I signed up for Lindsay the Frugal Crafter's landscape course over on Teachable, which by the way is a wonderful course. And I wanted to build a palette that I could use specifically for landscape surrounding colors that were suggested in that course. So I grabbed a plastic palette that I had. I grabbed some cotton tubes and, as I said, some Grumbacher Academy tubes, and I panned up what I called a landscape palette. Basically, I had a warm and a cool yellow, warm and a cool red, warm and a cool blue. And as you can see, this was before I started putting my palettes in rainbow order. um, I think I added to this one a Prussian blue, a sap green, and then we had a yellow ochre, a burnt sienna, and if I'm not mistaken, this is a burnt umber. It might be a black. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see real quick. Or maybe a Payne's gray. Looks to be a Payne's gray. Maybe a black. I can't really tell at the moment. I'm still waking up. um, but that was the very first kind of curated palette that I built in order to do some landscape practice from the course, and it worked out really well. The thing about it is, for as much as people may poo-poo on them, Winsor& Newton cotton paints are actually a really decent quality artist grade paint, especially to practice and get started with. And so is Grumbacher Academy. I don't necessarily like. I don't necessarily like one more than the other. That's why they both kind of ended up in this palette. But I just kind of want to show you guys that even with your student grade paints or your artist grade paints, you could still pull off the things that we've done over this three-part series. As a matter of fact, some artist grade paints ended up in the palette that we created. Okay, then the second palette I curated, I wanted to put together a palette using my Bamboo Forger palette, which, yes, shameless plug, there are still available palettes. So you can definitely check out the Defiant Art website or the Palm Street store if you're interested in them. Okay, so in this particular palette, I think it was, yeah, it's a combination as well. You have uh, Daniel Smith professional paints, you have Core professional paints, and you have million pretty excellent artist grade paints out of a tube, out of tubes that was used to create this palette. And I think we created this on camera somewhere. I can't remember if it was pre-recorded or live, but we definitely did it on video. Can't really remember. This palette I did like a lot, and I've used it. I mean, the curated colors, I did like a lot, and I have used quite a bit. You guys have seen this used in several videos. All right, so then the next palette that I curated was actually a color story palette. Now, uh, I spent a lot of time over on Palm Street moderating for Christy Rice as well as doing my own lives. And in the course of over maybe two of her lives, I purchased several different color story sets. They were basically watercolor sets that were put together, being of the same hue in one palette. So I grabbed several of those and put together a quarter pan. Palette, which Ruby was saying earlier, she was thinking about putting a Palm Street palette, which is together, which is why I giggled a little bit because if you guys remembered, we put this together. I want to say it was on live, and we've used it to paint with before, but they're all quarter pans. And each one of the color stories I did pick up from Christy Rice. So you have all different brands in here. There is Holbein and Daniel Smith and Magello. Oh my goodness, Sennelier, Schminka, I think. Um, there are several different brands in here. I can't really remember them all, but this is basically a color story curated palette. The only thing about this palette is that the color stories didn't have really that many earth tones in it. And I did ask Chrissy if she put together a brown color story palette so that I could, snatch it up from her. And of course, I'm gonna probably have to end up moving all of this into a bigger tin when that happens. But there are so many different ways to curate a set. Even if you're buying like the little tester sets, like I did here from Christy, you can take those sets and build your own curated palette from it as well. So that was that. And then, of course, the last curated palette that I've put together was the one that we've done throughout this series, which is inside my little cute poodle vintage tin, which in all honesty, I'm probably going to have to move it out of this tin, which makes me very sad. But um, from the size of the half pans to the size of the magnets that are put on the bottom, it's a little bit, it's giving my palette a little bit of a gate mouth effect that doesn't allow it to close down completely. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is, if I want to leave it in this tin, I need to pull the magnets off the back and replace the magnets with glue dots. So it'll be a little bit more flush to the bottom of the tin. But you can go back and check out video two, because in video two, this is where we curated this palette. And this is the palette we're going to be painting from today to wrap up the mini series. Now, as you know, this palette has many different brands in it, from Daniel Smith to Mission Gold to White Knights to Turner. There is Marie's Masters. There is so many different brands that I just kind of pulled from all of the tubes that I had here in the studio in order to kind of show you guys how to curate your own watercolor or gouache palette. So again, link in the video description for the playlist for this entire series, so you can go back and check out any of the videos that you may have missed up until this point. Now, these paints have already been swatched. I'll just show you the swatching sheet really quick so you can get a better look at the colors I'm going to be using today. If you are painting along live, use whatever watercolors or gouache you choose to, whether it was a palette or one you put together yourself. If you're watching on replay and you want to, you can just kind of like pause or whatever if you want to use the colors that's in this palette, or grab one that you already have that you love and use on a regular basis. It's going to be perfectly fine. I'm going to sit this, I wanted to sit that up in front of me, but it is going to block some of our light. So I won't do that. I'll move it to the side. We do have a Palm Street sale coming up really, really soon for the thrifty art community. It is going to be next Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And that live is going to mainly be a lot of handmade custom sketchbooks, both on the student grade as well as the professional grade side, being available for purchase in case you guys are interested in custom handmade sketchbooks. Now, the reference photo that we're going to be painting from today is linked in the video description. I wasn't able to print it out or share it or anything like that because the reference photo did come from Paint My Photo, and part of the bylaws is to that you can share the link, guide people to where the reference photo came from, but you can't necessarily show it, which is why I did go ahead and link it in the video description for you guys, in case you're interested. Now, what I'm going to be painting with our curated palette today is a winter scene. We are moving out of fall into winter, and it is finally starting to cool off here in Dallas a little bit. Thank goodness. Um, and it has been so nice over the last day or two to have some cooler weather that wasn't just burning the top of your head off. So I thought that this live would be a nice time to kind of jump into a winter painting. Now it's going to be pretty simple. As I told you, the reference photo came from Paint My Photo. Go check it out. You'll get to see how simple it is, but it's going to be really effective, hopefully. And we are going to be able to pull off a pretty effective composition. Last night, when I decided that I was jumping into, when I was deciding on what I was going to paint, I thought to myself, I'm painting a landscape, so I really wanted to paint on rough paper. All of the rough press paper that I have, well, I only have one. It is the Bohung Professional Rough Press 140 pound, 100% cotton paper that I ordered from Temu. And I really hated the fact that every single time I got ready to use it, I needed to just grab a single sheet and cut it down. So I decided last night, at the very last minute, it had to be around midnight, that I would make a sketchbook to house some of the rough press paper. So I made this last night right before I went to bed. It is a cute little handmade sketchbook, just so you can get a glimpse at some of the type of things that will be available during the Palm Street sale. I'll just show you. Like, here's another one that I've made and I've been working in. You guys may remember. Well, you don't remember this one, but this upcoming Wednesday's video, we're going to be painting a ink and wash daffodil, and it's done inside this sketchbook on the 100% cotton paper is it this sketchbook? Nope, it's not done inside this sketchbook. But anyway, I'm just showing, I'm just kind of showing you some of the designs, although these two won't be in Keep in Mind that all sketchbooks that are going to be available during the Palm Street sale are 100% custom. So they're all one of a kind. It'll be whoever purchased it will be the only person that has it. So these are one of a kind. And I made this one last night specifically to do landscape paintings in, because I wanted a sketchbook that had a rough press paper in it. So this is what I'm working on. The paper is 100% cotton, 140 pound, rough press, Bohung professional paper that the sketchbook is bound with. I've already kind of drawn out a little preliminary sketch to kind of get myself going with this particular painting. And of course, we're using the curated palette we put together. Now, I'm thinking that today I'm going to actually try to mix on this in this tin, just to save some space and maybe even be able to mix down here somewhere if I need to. We'll see. Let's see. I'm going to use a couple of brushes. I already know that I need a big brush, but you guys know I love a big brush. Love a big brush, and I cannot lie. I'm gonna pull out a 3/4 cat's tongue. I'm putting out a number 12 round. Both of those are synthetic squirrel brushes, so they're gonna hold quite a bit of water. I want to reduce the size and pull out another one similar to that. Actually, they may all be. You know what? Let's use, because I'm still testing these brushes as well. I'm going to grab a number 9 round. That's a Trenton. That's actually a nylon brush. So you can use like your all media brushes or your golden tech lines, which will pretty much be the same. The bristles on these particular brushes are just dyed a different color. Let's see. Do I need anything else? I want to grab a flat just in case. But I need one that's gonna hold a bit of water. Do I have? Excuse me. Okay, here we go. And I'm gonna grab a synthetic squirrel number 6 flat to work with. And if I need anything else, we'll grab it throughout the course of painting. I am where are my colors? Here we go. I just want to make sure that I have my reference so I can my what am I trying to say? Swatch sheet, so I can definitely tell you guys what we're doing. I'm going to start off with the sky. We're going to work from top to bottom of the paper. I'm not sure if you guys can really see my sketch. I'll hold it up a little bit better. But basically, I pulled the reference photo up and tried to just kind of sketch out what I saw. It's simple. It's simple, but hopefully, again, it'll be effective. All right. So let's just jump in with starting with our sky here. And I'm going to use, oh, actually, I want a bigger brush, but I want it reduced. That's a small space. I'm going to grab this number 8 round synthetic squirrel brush, and I am going to start off with ultramarine. This is going to be a winter painting, so we want to keep everything kind of cool. It's going to be mostly cool colors, deep colors to give it a really kind of cold feeling. So I'm going to grab some ultramarine blue. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, Shinhan PW6 Ultramarine Blue. And I'm going in wet on dry paper for this because if you pay attention to the reference photo, there's a very, very, very distinct cloud. I mean, a very distinct cloud going across the top, and it has quite a crisp line. So I'm just going to start here trying to shape this cloud. Just kind of painting what I see, hopefully. And we're just going to try to shape this cloud above. Look at that. That rough paper is already at work. I love it, love it, love it. And here's the thing, rough paper is going to give you a texture, of course. And then I'm using ultramarine blue, um, which is going to give me a texture as well. I'm just kind of bouncing my brush here to form the top part of that cloud. And then I'll go in and fill in the rest of the area above it. And with ultramarine being a sedimentary color, as you rub your wet brush across it, if it starts to dry, it will reactivate. And I'm just going to put quite a bit of blue up here, honestly. Because again, we are painting, we're getting this really kind of cool feeling. I did not grab a paper towel. And you guys are going to have to forgive me because I am going to have to get up and go grab a paper towel. This is not going to be a painting I can get through without one. Okay, and I'm just making sure that it's a little bit darker across the very top. Okay, and that's pretty much like me shaping or trying to shape the top of the cloud. Like, and this is one big continuous cloud across the top of this mountain. So we're going to see here. I'll bring that down just a little bit. All right, and I'm okay with that kind of harshness. Now I'm going to grab a little bit of burnt sienna, just a little bit, just a little bit. And we're going to start mixing it into that ultramarine to gray it down a little bit here. And I'm going to tap that color right above the top of my mountain. And this may take a little to work out, but I'm dropping that color in just at the top of the mountain line. and then kind of blending up with it a little bit, just like we're shading the bottom of a cloud, because that's literally what we're doing. So I'm going to drop in that mixture. I'll rinse my brush, pull a little bit of the water out of it, and then I'm going to go back and start to just blend that up. It's going to add water to the area, which is great because now I can go in and get some different saturation. I'll grab a little bit more of that burnt sienna. I don't want it gray, but I do want it like a cool looking blue. And then we'll mix a little bit of a gray and drop a gray in there a little bit. Just kind of just there. Hopefully everyone can see okay. And you see how that puts this really distinct sort of cloud right in the background. I'm going to actually mix a little bit more burnt umber into that just to gray it down even more. Don't want it black. And then I'm going to dab that in here and there in certain areas just to get a cloud a little bit more shadow. Not too much. There we go. And you can even go in and blend as you paint. If you start to develop any hard lines, keep in mind that we're working with sedimentary colors, so you can just kind of reactivate that area a little bit. Now, what I want to do is kind of blend the bottom of this up just a little bit, just so it looks like we have shadow throughout that cloud. Just a little, making sure to keep the top crisp, okay? You're going to keep your top crisp. And we're just developing a sky. I think I'm okay with that. Love that. Love that. All right. I think we'll let that be. We'll let that be for now. And let's move down and start with our water area. Now, if you're looking at the reference photo, you will see that over here, there's actually a little bit of beach, you know, and the water is really clear. Keep in mind it's cold. There's like no movement to the water. So we are going to be painting stillness here. And if I'm looking at this reference photo right, the water right here up under the main part of the mountain seems to be have a little turquoise color looking to it. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of this Turner turquoise blue and mix it out on the palette here. Actually, I'm gonna switch over to my big brush for this part. So I'm gonna grab that number 12 round. And I always encourage you to try to paint with the biggest brush you can. It'll just, it'll help with brush control, water control, and all those type of things. Now, I am not going to wet my paper, as you notice. Unlike in most landscapes, I'm going directly on dry paper here is going to help keep the saturation of color. And what I'm going to do is just brush in this turquoise, and you can add a little water into that. Brushing this turquoise, and it kind of oh, comes about that far maybe, down into our water. And I am blending everything. I'm not doing any like choppy strokes or anything of that nature because we want the water to be as still as possible. Now I'm going to switch over to ultramarine blue, get that water watery, and we are going to blend that in along this edge. Ooh, I'm getting paint on my back sheet there. That's okay. It'll just be a little goodness for the next painting. And here I'm kind of dry brushing. You'll see that one of the things I love about rough paper, especially when painting landscape, is that you can kind of dry brush, kind of drag your brush across the surface of the paper, and that texture is going to cause your paintbrush to skip, and it's going to make it look like you have like these little glistenings of light, especially in a snow scene, because you would have like reflective snow and things like that. And I'm going to try to hurry up and move on this end because I don't want this to have any hard lines. And there, let's grab a little more ultramarine, adding some water to it. And again, you'll see me blend it all the way out. I'm not leaving any choppiness. I'm just leaving like little white speckles. So it'll look like light is glistening across, like so. And in my corner here, I want to indicate my little sandy area. So I'm going to grab a little, let's go with a little yellow ochre. We'll start with the yellow ochre and I still had blue in my brush, so that turned out a little green. So I'm going to rinse and grab a little bit more of that yellow ochre and water it down. Let's see, it's coming in this way, like so. And another reason I decided to use yellow ochre is because it has the tendency to make green less as you blend it into your water, because you want it to look like maybe it's going out under that water there. Um, that's not bad. That's not bad. I think I like that. I do want a little bit more saturation in my ultramarine though. I don't feel like it's cool enough looking. So I'm gonna just go back and kind of blend over another layer of ultramarine while everything is still wet and everything is still blend without leaving any harsh lines. And just get me some more color depth in here. Keep in mind, it's a winter landscape, so it's cold looking. It should be cold. And there we go. I think that's pretty decent for a blend. If we need to add more color to it later, we can. I want to try to get it all done in one wash so I don't have to come back and fool with it again. I'm going to brush some of that over the top of that turquoise so that it will blend in a little better. There we go. I think I'm good with that. Here, I'm going to grab this. I originally picked up this number 9 round, but I think I'm going to reduce that size a little bit. Do I have another one of these brushes? Well, since it comes to a nice point, we're just going to use that one. And this one is a nylon brush, so you could use a golden Teflon if that's what you have. If you have the Zen media brushes and you have a round, that would work. Just anything that has a synthetic nylon bristles versus something that's meant to mimic like a squirrel or a sable or a camel hair brush because they're going to hold much, much more water, right? Um, so let's see. Let's go in. Is that coming off? That did. That completely came. That yellow ochre came off of the magnet it was attached to. I'm gonna fix that real quick. I'm just gonna grab a little bit of Fix glue. It's not gonna take much at all. Swirl it around the bottom of that magnet. And then pop that pan back on there. Now, of course, when I get ready to remove those and put glue dots on, it'll be fine. I'm just gonna let that sit there for a second so it can adhere. All right. I got my little portable ultramarine there. I'm going in with burnt sienna. You can use burnt umber if that's what you have and that's what you want to. One will give you a little bit more of a cooler leaning gray. Another one will give you a little bit more of a warmer leaning. So I'm going to go in and we are going to paint. And as you can see, it's going to be a little bit darker than our cloud area. And I am skipping around a little bit to leave snow caps. You want to give the appearance that there is snow on those mountains. And I'm being careful because this little part here, those mountains are more in the foreground than the background. And I am just hitting and missing. I'm not really doing too much. I'm keeping it as blue as possible or blue leaning as possible. We're going to keep it towards the lighter rim like so. Just so it'll look like it's a little snow on the mountain. Um, and that the mountain is receding, is pushing back from us. I almost can't distinguish it from the bottom of the cloud, right? And then there is another one that is, I can't see where I drew my line at, over here on this side. And I'm just going to go in doing the same thing I did with the mountain on the right. And I'm painting around, I'm kind of negative painting. I'm painting around where I would have snow since I didn't use any masking fluid and I don't plan on it. And I didn't use any, I don't plan on using a white gel pen that far back either. Oh, that's a little too dark. I'm gonna add some water to that, clean my brush. And there we go. We got like those two little snow-capped mountains that are kind of pushed off into the distance back there. Ooh, green gold watercolor paint from Daniel Smith. I love green gold. Beautiful color. I have it in many different brands. It's one of my faves. It's green gold right there. That's Mission Gold. Is it Mission Gold or PWC? Mission Gold. It's Mission Gold. All right. Now I can't do anything with that little mountain there just yet, but I can do something with like the snow that's on the actual foreground. So still using that same color, I'm going to water it down even more because we want it to be quite a shift in this color. And you can actually go down through here and kind of paint this whole area. because you do have rocks that you're going to be painting. But you just want to add a little toning to the area where the snow is going to be. And it's going to be dry. Once it dries, it's going to shift. But it's going to add a little toning, and you'll definitely be able to see. It'll still appear white. That's the point I'm making. Once we get all of our colors in, it'll still appear white. This is a pretty simple composition. It's not a lot in it. And the focal images are far away from the viewer's eye, really kind of push back. Now, if you're looking at the reference photo, you probably see some people in it. I'm omitting the people because they're super tiny. I don't really see it doing any good. But there, we're starting to build. We're starting to build. Okay, I think that my water is starting to dry here, and I don't want to put anything else in the water. If I do anything else to the water, it's going to be using a white gel pen just to add a little sparkly, a little bit more sparkly to the water. And then, of course, we're going to be putting in our shadow, which in the reference photo, the shadow is pretty distinct. Now, I did not take out the shadow for the actual um, cloud, which I hate I missed it. But, we're just going to roll with the flow. Can I lift out a little bit? We'll see. Let's grab this napkin and let's see if I can mimic, if I can lift it out at all. Now, one of the things to keep in mind though about using a rough paper is that a rough paper will wear out. It will wear out your brushes quicker than I don't think that turquoise is gonna lift. I think I'm kind of just wasting my time here because I don't think that turquoise is gonna lift at all. I know the ultramarine will come up a little bit. I'm just gonna have to count that as my bad. I should have been thinking a little bit more. Okay. I should have been thinking a little bit more, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm gonna take a little bit of that yellow ochre we were working with earlier, put a little bit of burnt sienna into it, and kind of go in and reestablish some of the land area. Give it a little bit more definition. Let it blend out into the water a little bit more. And then I'm going to mix some more of that with that yellow ochre, add a little water to it, and then we are going to, I'm going to do a little splattering on there. And once that dries, I'll spatter a little bit more just to give it a sandy texture and to make it look like some of that, maybe a little pebbly under the water there. I need a smaller brush for that. Let's switch over to, um, let's see. I'm just gonna grab, what is this? This is like a number 6. This is another nylon brush. This is the Night Pro series. These brushes are kind of missized in my opinion. I'm just trying to get a little pebbly texture there. I'll do it a little bit more once that area has completely dried. Let's see. Moving into this, let's move into this forward mountain here. I'm going to switch over to a small flat. Let's see. This is a number 3 nylon brush. And now I need a much darker mix. Grabbing ultramarine and burnt umber. This I want to be a darker gray because it's going to come towards us. Let's see. Yeah. Need a little bit more blue in it. Just a little brown. All right, now I'm gonna go in and here on this little mountain, and you can't really, it's not gonna be much. I'm just gonna go in with my brush and kind of paint that mountain in. Again, doing the same exact thing where I am kind of leaving little snow cap, a little white areas, so it'll feel like there's snow on that mountain. Like so. And bring it on down this way. And this smaller brush works really well for this. Just to help. And I am going across the very top of it. I want to help divide that foreground mountain from that background mountain, those background mountains. Like so. And you see how it brings that mountain closer to us, and it makes the ones in the back look like they are pushed back even further now. Now, if you feel like you want to add more saturation to your back mountains, you can. Just be careful, because you don't want too much now. You don't want to make them pull forward. You want them to still stay in the background. And I'm just dabbing a little bit of gray, because they're blue. They are giving me blue mountain majesty. So I'm just tapping a little bit of that watered down gray into that. And it still looks pushed back. This one got a little out of hand. Let's dry the brush. See if we can lift some of that off. All right. I think I like that. Just make sure you can distinguish the mountain from the bottom of the cloud. There we go. All right, we're moving forward in the picture. We are moving forward in the picture. Not too much more to go. Not too much more to go. Um, this mountain on this end, I'm probably gonna, cause it's closer to us, I'm gonna add a little bit more ultramarine to that. We're gonna make this one not as gray looking, but more of a bluey, cool feel. Maybe it is like a tree line over here or something or another. That dry. And so I'm using the corner of my brush, or I'm using my brush straight up and down, should I say. Holding it at a 90-degree angle. And I'm being choppy like that just so it'll look like it's some little treetops back there. It's very impressionistic, you know. Okay, let's see. I need to keep that. If my hand's in the way, I'm sorry, it'll move in just a second. Again, I'm skipping around, leaving white areas in there because maybe there's snow on the ground. And I'm continuing to use that brush at a 90-degree angle, pulling those strokes straight up in linear lines, just to give the indication that there are some trees, you know, trees, trees, trees. And let's go along the bottom here. Make sure you can definitely see where that starts versus where the kind of shadowed snow is, which we're going to make even more shadow before it's all said and done. And the eye should see that little area and be like, oh, that's a group of little coley trees. More trees back there. And the more you paint, the more your cloud is going to stand out. I love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. Okay, so this little area has a lot of rocks in it. Like there's a rock, there's a rock, there's a rock, that's a rock, that's a rock, that's a rock. You guys know how I feel about my rocks. I'm gonna take just a little bit more. I'm moving more into the neutral that I have, and I'm just gonna tap just a little in there, not much. Keep in mind this that's still supposed to be at a bit of a distance from us. I don't want to bring it forward too much. That should be good. Now we're going to paint. Let's go ahead and start on our rocks. So I'm trying to keep color harmony and use the same colors that I was using the whole time. I'm going to grab a little yellow ochre here. So now this is a little yellow ochre. And I'm going to continue to use this little small brush. I like this. And some, what is this? Burnt sienna. I think that's going to be good enough for all the rocks. The first layer anyway. That's a little yellow for me. I'm going to add a little bit more burnt sienna. It's actually a little red for me. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow ochre. I'm sorry. And that's strong. Get your life together, Ken. Okay, let's see. And I'm just going to paint in that rocky area. And don't you worry, if you look at the reference photo, you'll see that those rocky areas also, some of them also have a little kind of like mossy green feel to them, like it's some grass or some little trees kind of growing in those areas. So we are going to be throwing some of that in as well. And that rocky area comes down to here. This brush helps greatly with water control. And you don't necessarily have to leave white spaces out on your rock because we're going to be going back into that with gel pen. But as you'll notice, these colors are much warmer, so it's going to bring everything towards us. It's actually a little too warm, honestly. I feel like I need to glaze that It's so not the color that's in the reference photo. Although I tend to use the reference photo more as a guide versus a direct copy, I still feel like that's just a little too light. So I'm gonna go in. Um, let's see, a little bit more of that burnt sienna, a little bit more of that yellow ochre, and then I'm gonna add. Ooh, there's too much. Yep, that's way too much. Just not what I wanted, but that's okay. I'm just gonna add water to it to lighten it up. And then maybe mix a little bit of yellow ochre back into that. I think that's a little bit better. Let me test that. Is that green looking? No, it's not green looking. Okay. Let's go back in and rebase some of this so we can knock back how bright that color is. See there? See how we tone down the brightness? It's still warm. It still comes towards us. We're just toning it down a little bit because, again, that was really bright for a winter landscape. Go like so. And notice how, although we painted, we put a little shadow on, still too bright. It's still too bright. I have to fix that. I have to. I don't know why I can't get it. There we go. If at first you don't succeed, Aaliyah said the best. Pick yourself up and try again. It's always easier to go lighter and increase the saturation in your color than it is to go darker and then decrease. It's much easier to darken than to lighten. So even if you start out too light, that's okay. You can always darken it up slowly like I've done here. Okay, that feels more natural. All right, let's see. We have this guy here, and this guy here, this big one here, kind of protrudes down into the mountainside. We're going to go back and add definition into these with our neutral we always mix. Or if you're painting directly from your palette and you want to use a black, you can. I would suggest, though, you mix the black color out on your palette and then mix in other colors that you've been using throughout the painting. That way that black won't look flat or dead, and it'll definitely fit in better. It won't stick out like a sore thumb. All right, let's see. And then there's one here I need to touch on. And as you can see, the white, the snow starts to come out even more now. The mountains really look like they're at a distance. And once we put on some shadow, we'll put on some shadow. All right, now I want to start putting in this still, I can't believe it's still wet. This paper really, really absorbs water. It has some really good sizing. The sizing in this paper must be both external and internal for it to absorb that water and stay wet as long as it's been staying wet. Let's start putting in this shadow. I want to go ahead and get it in. I'm going to grab that same little flat brush I was working with. Um, and looking at my reference photo, that's actually sort of dark. I think I want to go over here into this neutral I mixed. Now, I was originally going to try to do it maybe a brownish tone, but that looks kind of dark to me. So I'm going to add some water to my little gray mixture, a little bit more burnt sienna to push it a little bit more grayish. Um, and then I want to start putting this little, that's super watery. That might be too watery. See if I can grab some down here. That may be a little too watery for me. I have I'm just putting those strokes straight across the paper. It's okay that it's light. You know, like I just said, you can always darken. It's a little shame though because I really wanted that white reflection down the middle of that, but we have to work it out. I'll have to work it out. Hopefully I can lift out that reflection a little bit because it's definitely going to add to the composition. I know you can barely see that. I'm just really basing it in with a really light wash. I'm gonna go back in it because I'm unsure a little bit of my stroke at the moment. So I'm keeping it light until I basically get the shadow kind of filled in how I want it. And then I'm gonna go back in and darken things up. I'm actually gonna switch over to a round brush at this point. A really thin one. This is a number 5 round. And I just dropped that brush. Okay, I see it. At least I can get to it. I'm gonna grab a little bit of ultramarine, burnt sienna, and I want to try to keep this as not super watery. And yellow ochre. I'm not even rinsing my brush at this point. I'm just grabbing the colors. They do bead up on this little tin, but hey, you know, it's not the first palette I've had stuff bead up on. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in. Now that I'm a little bit more sure. Ooh, that's dark. Should it be that dark? It should be. It's got almost a blue tint to it. Okay. We're not gonna. I'm pulling my strokes out to give me sort of a wavy feel. The way it looks like a reflection. Same thing over here. Just kind of pulling that stroke. I'm using the very tip of that brush. And it actually kind of lightened it up. So I should hopefully be able to, I don't know, get something in there that's going to give it a snowy reflection. Without doing too much lifting of anything, hopefully. Um, I'm going to go ahead and start putting some shadow in. Let's see. Go ahead and start putting some shadow into my rocks. I'm going to put a little bit heavier, definitely color around the bottom of the rock that you can see in order to ground it in. We'll start putting a little cracky details in, and then just kind of pull that color up around the bottom just to start shaping our rocks. I love to paint rocks. See that? See how it sort of shapes the rock, give it more of a 3D feel. You just start that, put that heavier color weight at the bottom, and then slowly kind of dry brush that color up. Keep in mind that you'll have all types of little cracks and crevices in your rock. You can just kind of brush on it, over it, let the dry brushing grab the paper and make all these little crazy darker spots and indentation. You know, get a rock a little feel there. Some of the areas I want to hit just a little bit more, like a little bit darker, so it'll look like there are like these cracks and crevices in the rock. Okay. Let's do the same thing to this little guy. The little guy's on the front here. Just adding a little visual weight on the bottom of the rock. Not much. Most of this is dry brushing. Nothing is super wet. It's a very small area that I'm working in, so I'm not trying to be too perfect. Just want to get some shadow on that rock and give it a roundness. Um, Whenever you have that flat image of a rock like that, as long as you take the heavier color and weight it towards the bottom of the rock, and then slowly pull that blend up, you're going to start seeing all types of shapes emerge for your rocks. I'll hold that paper up just a second so you'll be able to see that better. And I'm not worried about getting too much detail on these small ones other than just shaping them. See here. I need to add a touch of water to that. Just a touch, just a smidget. Just a smidget of water, as my granny used to say, just a smidget of water. And pull that color up. Again, just in certain areas, not over the entire rock. If you feel like something's too dark, then just rinse. Excuse me. rinse, blot your brush, and then go in and go back over that area, it's gonna lighten it. It's definitely gonna lighten it. Just because of the properties of ultramarine and burnt sienna. As a matter of fact, I want to pull some of that off. I'm gonna dab that. Got a little carried away with that rock. But I'll hold it up so you can see where we're going with that. You can see like the little definition and detail that's being put in it. We're going to go ahead and put in some definition into this line and then this rock. And we're going to be putting shadow in the actual snow so that it looks more like snow. So let's just continue here. Let's go with um, definitely putting some visual weight at the bottom of this mountain or this little rock frame, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to put a little dark V there just for some separation. I need to remix some colors here. Grab ultramarine, burnt sienna. Again, I'm trying to keep as much water out of this mixture as possible. So I'm rinsing very little in between colors, which is another reason I like to paint from dry down pans because you can do this and it's very easy to just clean the top of the paint. I'm going to even throw a little bit of yellow ochre in that, a little bit more blue. Okay, I'm gonna go back in here and too much. Just add water to that. Blot it off on a brush, pick up just a little bit, and go back in here and finish what I was doing. We'll add some visual weight to the bottom of that one. Maybe there's some little cracks. Shadow there, maybe. To go to Jerry's Autorama. I really want to go to Jerry's Autorama today. But I'm so scared that if I go in there, I'm going to spend way more money than I need to. I need to go pick up some paper, in all honesty, but because I didn't order enough of the wholesale paper to finish binding all of the artist grade sketchbooks. So I need to go to Jerry's so I can pick up some paper. But the thing about that is it's a trap for me. So I'm definitely going to go in there and spend way more money than I need to. Even if I tell myself before going in there, don't do it, it's going to get done. Um, that's just the nature of the beast when you are constantly trying to review something. I remember the last time I went in Jerry's to pick up paper, I was just supposed to be getting paper. I wasn't going to be picking up anything else. And yeah, what did I do? I picked up that Soho watercolor set that we'll be eventually getting to. So yeah, I never seem to think that's good. I never seem to really go in there and do what I'm supposed to. I can never go into Jerry's and behave myself. But is who was it? Terry, I think it was, said you only live once, right? You only live once, friends. I'm gonna add some visual weight to the bottom of this rock. I'm supposed to be having a teleconference with the doctor today. Um, sort of like a check-in before going tomorrow. I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous because I'm not a big fan of needles. I'm not a big fan of doctors. I'm definitely not a big fan of dentists. Just not a big fan. I understand that they do their job, they're all professional and la la la. I should be scared. Yes, yes, I know, I get it. I shouldn't have any hesitation or apprehension. Yes, yes, I get it, but I don't know. It's my mouth, and yeah, I do. So I'm just dry brushing darker color across the bottom of that rock and letting it run up into the rock just to give it a little visual weight. Maybe there's a couple of crevices on this one too, like there is on the other one. So I'm just gonna kind of just brush in little detailed areas. I'm still leaving those white spaces out to kind of emulate, hey, maybe some snow fell there. But I think that helps shape that rock though. And the dry brushing is so cool. Dry brushing is so cool. All right, let's add in some. Now we're going to be adding some moss because I see green. If I zoom in on my reference photo and I squint, I see green. And the truth of the matter is, I even think maybe there are some type of structures on that little rock. I'm not quite sure. Of course, we're not going to be painting it in because it's so far away from the viewer's eye, but I really feel like that. So we're definitely going to put a little greenery. It looks like there's some, because this is called Ice Station Zero. I pulled the idea to paint this from the Inktober prompt list. Um, Day 18, 19, or 20, one of those days, the word is Arctic. So I kind of pulled this from the Inktober list. I'm just not using inks to paint. Let's see. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that that is greenery. Definitely some greenery on this one. Um, there may be some on these back. Yeah, definitely some on this back rock. And there's no way I could just like leave this rock blank. So I'll put some here. Yeah, I think that's gonna work there. The shadow is the shadow. I'm not gonna do anything else to it. It's definitely too harsh. I'm gonna grab. I said I'm not gonna do anything else to it, but I feel. I'm gonna grab a wet brush and kind of brush over that and touch that with my paper towel. I think I got it too dark, but ultramarine blue and burnt sienna are what? Sedimentary, so you can mix, re-wet them and start to slowly lift them out. See, that's better already. That's better already. Love that. Okay, cool. That looks more like a shadow and less like, I don't know, whatever it was. It was just definitely too dark. You can lift a little more out just to be on the safe side. Now let's go in with the shadows that will be reflecting under our little rocks here. I'm just using I will be using watery, because these are just going to be like little reflections of whatever this rock is, and this rock, and then here have a little reflection. I'm gonna check the comment section in just a minute. I just want to work on these shadows in this water. This is a rough paper, so if you've never used rough paper, I definitely suggest you try it. I love it. As I said earlier, just keep in mind it is It does a number on your brushes, which is why I typically like to use nylon brushes whenever I am. And can you see the reflection of this big one? You can't see a lot of it. You can just kind of see like a little thingy, just like a little peak, just like a little peak there. You can kind of see a little bit of reflection. And I'm gonna bring that reflection right up to the shoreline. I did mix a little bit more, grab a little bit more of the shadow that was more ultramarine heavy for that one. I don't mind it being a little darker than the rest of them. All right, let's see. What else do I want to do from this reference photo before we start to wrap this up? We're going to definitely get some more petally texture here. Let's put on. Let me give this a second to dry. I've been working in some wet areas. Let's give that a second to dry. And here you can see how, although we went over this with a really light gray wash. You see how now that all of the other colors are on the paper, how this reads as white, it reads as snow. And it goes gorgeous against the backdrop of um, that cloud because we use sort of that same watery gray that we did here to do the shadowing under that cloud. So yeah, beautiful. Let's finish painting here. I need to put shadow under the rocks and I need to put a pebbly area here. But before I do that, let's put on the moss. I'm going to grab this number 5 round and I want to make sure that I keep with colors that I've been using. So instead of introducing a new color here, we're going with green. I'm just going to mix my green from the colors we've used. Now we use a turquoise. Motorcycle Alley, remember. We use a turquoise blue, we use the ultramarine blue, and as far as yellow is concerned, we've used the yellow ochre. So let's grab a little yellow ochre here. Do I want to use ultramarine or turquoise? Let's mix it with a little turquoise first and see what happens. I don't know what kind of green that's going to give us, but let's see. Let's test it out. Let's see what type of green it gives us. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice. Okay, yellow ochre. Grab a little bit more of that. And mix it in with that turquoise. Oh, guys, I like that green. It's not too bright because this yellow ochre is kind of muted. But let's go in and let me just see on the reference photo here. Let me zoom it in. It's just like some little areas that have that green. I'm just going to dot it in just so you'll be able to see like there's like some green patches back there. Oh, I really like that green. That's nice. That's nice. And it works so well with the landscape because it's mixed from colors that's already in there. And who knew that that turquoise blue and that yellow ochre would give me such a beautiful green? Put some up in this area. And I'm actually making it look like little treetops by dragging down little points. I'm not covering up all of my rock, but I'm just making it look like maybe, this is winter. Like so. And I'll put a little bit more like here and there. Because even in the Arctic you have some life. Just put a little over here on this rock. And you can just decide where you want to, like in the reference photo, there's not really any on this rock. I'm taking artist liberty because whenever you introduce a new color, you want to try to use it in more than one area of your painting so that there's color harmony. and it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb. I'll even put a dab of that on some of these little rocks. Why not? It's just gonna help tie the color in better. Okay. Not sure if you guys can see that, but that worked out well. I'm gonna bring it up so you can see a little bit better. You can see where those little green areas are. All right, let's do a little shadow in our snow. Now I'm gonna water down because all of this stuff is starting to dry on the palette, which is a good thing. I'm gonna water down that just a little and add some water to that because I don't want this is a shadow and it's a shadow in the snow. So what you want to do is just kind of brush brush that shadow up around the base of your rocks. And of course you want this to be darker than your snow, right? And it's not a lot of water in there. I'm letting the water kind of, the brush skip across the surface of the paper. Like a dry, oh, well, not like a dry brush. I am dry brushing. And then on this end, we would have shadow for our big guy here. Not too much, just enough to indicate that, hey, that is definitely snow. All right, I want to put in a pebbly feel over here. So I'm gonna grab, there we go. As you can see, now that the paper is dry, that's gonna show up much better. And I'm just picking up just little bits of, I'm gonna go in and dab it around the beachy area there. It's watery, but it's a little bit more saturated, or it's gonna show up a little bit better than it would if, say, like this paper was wet and we were doing splatters on wet paper where they would just kind of diffuse and blend in more to make it look like those pebbles are going out into the water. And I'm just using the very tip of my brush to give a little texture indication. The paper is actually going to do the rest of the work. There we go. I think that's good. Let me add a few more back here. I'm gonna stick them on random, just dotting them in randomly. If you feel like something's got too heavy, pick it up. If you feel like it's not random enough, then go back to splattering off of your brush. But you definitely don't want it to look too uniform. And it may help to actually be using a brush that'll splatter, unlike me, because I'm really using that super tight brush as if though it was really going to do some splatter, and it's not. It's really not. This one will though. There we go. That'll be better. There we go. There's a little splatter down there. Yep, 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 yep. Okay. Now I want to assist and see if there's anything else I want to do. I really did want to kind of try to lift it so I can get a little bit more of that white highlight there. So I'm grabbing a super stiff brush. This is, so back in the day, the very first company that ever did any type of collaboration with me was a company called Aim High Art. AEM Hiart. They made or they still make, because I saw it the other day on Amazon. They make a budget tube set of watercolor paints. Um, oh, I forget how many were in there. Maybe 24. It comes with a palette. It comes with some brushes, and the golden tackle brushes inside that set was super stiff, and the flat I always felt like was really good for trying to lift out colors. So I've kept it over the years. I think I gave the paints away a long time ago, but the brushes were pretty badass. I'm sorry, pretty dynamic. So I'm gonna go through and try to scrub out some lightness in between. Ooh, look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Yes, 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 yes. Scrub out some lightness there so you can see like that is that snow reflecting in between those two shapes. Okay, I like that. That worked. I don't need to scrub it anymore. It's just a reflection. Now it makes me wonder if I can use this brush to kind of get back some of the cloud I lost. Let's see. Okay, okay, I think that is a little bit better. I mean, ultimately, I just made a boo boo by not putting the cloud reflection in the water to begin with. But I feel like I'm not going to be able to lift the turquoise. That's the problem. I can't make that really continuous like I want to because that turquoise is not going to lift as well as that ultramarine will. Oh well, you get a little indication of it. You can see a little bit. All right, let's wrap this on up now. What else do I need to do? I need to do. Let me look at this reference photo. This needs to be wetter. The sand around the bottom needs to be more saturated because it's being touched by water. So it needs to be wetter. I need to get my values right there and then I'll be done. So I'm grabbing burnt sienna, a really tight round brush here, and I mix a little ultramarine in it. It's actually too dark. That's the reason you haven't seen me stop. It's because I'm not going to take a paper towel and just block to lighten it up. That's a little bit better looking. It's still not quite where I want it to be, but it's better looking. It gives you the impression of pebbles anyway. Let's see if I can. Okay, I'm gonna call that good. I'm gonna call that good. Grabbing a white gel pen. And this is definitely where I'm going to experience some issues because there's going to be skipping on this rough paper. Now, what I want to do with this white gel pen is go up against the bank line. And I'm going to do a non-continuous hit and miss line right along the bank. Even if it cuts through and interrupts my shadows, it's going to be lost and found, meaning that I'm not making it continuous. I'm purposely making that line break Just give a water line back there. I'm going to, I just want like little shimmers in the water. Don't want it to look like ripples. So I'm just kind of dragging it along to add in some more white areas from where we were skipping on our paper. And then maybe it'll be a little bit more frothy up around where it's running on shore. And I'm literally just doing zigzag lines there. Because I feel like that would definitely be a little bit more frothy because it's running up on the shoreline. Um, yeah, friends, I think that's a wrap. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I mean, had I not been taping this, I probably would have been done with it a long time ago, but I love hanging out with you guys and just there. Even put a little bit down here where we pulled out that highlight and then take my finger and dab it out. I'm just gonna add a little color there. Okay, I'm good with that. I am. I'm going to grab a fine liner. What is this? Nope. I don't want to use brown. I want to use black. Don't see it. For right now, that's fine. I will grab a alcohol marker then. Using the bullet end, I'm going to slowly add a frame. You don't have to do this. I do it because I like the way it looks against the white paper. I'm just following or lightly following the edge of my tape. This is pretty wide. I grabbed the alcohol marker because it's what was sitting around. I normally do it with a gel pen. It's a lot thinner, but you know. And I'm going to be using that curated palette to paint many, many other paintings. Um, that was the whole point of putting it together, right? I think that was the whole point of putting it together anyway. So we're going to be seeing that palette a lot more outside of testing other watercolor brands and things of that nature. I'm trying to be careful, keep my pressure light because I don't want it to be any bigger than the tip of the marker. All right, and I need to sign it with something, even if it's this brown marker, whatever we have, burnt sienna in there. It's really hard to, the rough paper puts wear and tear on anything you use on page of my sketchbook, but that's okay. Just give me a little something to work from. And mostly landscapes are going to go in this sketchbook since it is a rough paper. So I'm pretty sure I'll find something blue to go there. And there we have it, friends. Look at there. It's not too bad. Now, if you want to, you are more than welcome to go ahead and compare that to the reference photo and paint along. But that was fun. That was fun. That was fun. So do let me know whether or not you're going to give this a try. Keep in mind if there's any questions you have about anything before we jump off, you can drop them in the chat, or if it's in replay or after the chat is live, then you can definitely drop it in the comments section. Patreon. Thank you, friends. Check the video description for all of the relevant links. Keep in mind, we got a pre-recorded video dropping this Wednesday where we are going to be doing a daffodil line and wash in honor of Inktober. I did it inside this new sketchbook that Nicole sent to me to try to paper out on. We're going to be doing a line and wash daffodil. So that's what's going to be coming up this Wednesday on the channel. This Friday on the channel, we are going to be looking at doing a in-depth review of the Mameri Blue Professional Watercolor paints, which we've been testing for a while. So that's going to be that. The following Wednesday behind that, we are going to be getting around to the unboxing and swatching and first demo for the Da Vinci watercolors, but I'm probably not going to do that live. It probably will be a pre-recorded video coming up over the next week to week and a half to 2 weeks. I don't have anything else to review just at this second behind the Mameri Blue, unless I just do a one video straight through review of the Soho Urban Artist watercolors, simply because it is another budget set and it's not going to, I'm pretty sure it's not going to take extensive testing for me to figure out what my opinion of that particular paint set is. So you can look for possibly all of that coming up. Keep in mind that next Sunday we will be going live on Palm Street. I don't know if I'm going to have some help for that live or not. I'm not sure how my mouth will be doing by Sunday, but hopefully everything will be healed enough for me to be able to talk with clarity and no problems. But if not, then I'm going to be snatching a brother, a cousin, a friend, or somebody in to help me run that Palm Street Live. But it is still going down this upcoming Sunday. I am not going to move it. I'm not going to reschedule it because I know everybody has been anticipating it and have probably already maybe, made up your mind that you'll be there. So that's that. It's set in stone. We're going to make it happen one way or the other. Anything else? Anything else that I can think of? Not off the top of my head. All of the good stuff is in the video description. You're going to get a product. I don't think it's a product list in there, but there is a link, like I said, for the playlist to all these videos. There's a link to the reference photo so that you can check out today's painting and do it your way. Um, and Patreon, keep a lookout in the creation station. The post for tonight's live at 8 p.m. will be going up shortly. If you're not a Creation Station member, I do suggest that you check out the link for Patreon in the video description. Go over, read all of the good things that come along with the Creation Station. Sign up if you want to. You can actually sign up as a free member over in Patreon if you would like. Just keep in mind you won't have access to three-fourths of the perks that members of the Creation Station do. So there you are, friends. Go out, enjoy the rest of your day. Creation Station, I'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Susan, hi, everyone. Late to this one. Hope your dental work goes well. Cindy Headache. Thank you so much, Susie. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all the well wishes and the great wishes and the positive love that everybody has been sending me about this situation. We will make it through and I will see you guys really, 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 really soon live. In the meantime, remember, as I tell you at the end of every single video, just keep creating, friends.